The Rim to Rim Hiking Club wants you. An entire collection of unique Grand Canyon hiking apparel, including our Rim to Rim Hiking Club tees and hoodies, is available exclusively at brightangeloutfitters.com. Commemorate your bucket list adventure by wearing your love of the canyon. From a full Rim to Rim collection to more specific landmarks like Uwa Point and Devil's Corkscrew, this is where you'll find something for those who are canyon obsessed. And yes, there's even a canyon obsessed design. Find it all at brightangeloutfitters.com. Bright Angel Outfitters was born out of a love of the canyon and exists to help you hike your best hike.
Hey guys, it's Brian here. New episodes of the show return on January 7th. In the meantime, we're replaying some of the best. This time, the story of the marvelous Miss Mary, my friend Mary Banik. A couple of months after this conversation, I joined Mary for a South Kaibab to the river to South Kaibab to Tonto to Bright Angel hike, which I now consider the Mary Loop. Enjoy this one. Mary Banik is 73, but based on her Grand Canyon hiking schedule, you'd never know it. Every chance she gets, Mary makes the 6-hour drive from her home in Tucson, Arizona to the South Rim for hikes that cover every inch of the corridor trails. So common is it to see Mary below the rim that many of the rangers know her by name. It's an obsession that's only deepened with age, after starting slowly almost 50 years ago alongside her then husband and their 2.5-year-old daughter.
I first discovered the canyon, but way back, probably before you were born, in 1976.
I'd been alive 3 years by then, so not too bad.
Oh, okay. So my husband and I decided, and that was the day that you could walk up to Bright Angel desk and get a couple of nights at Phantom Ranch with no problem. So we booked 2 nights at Phantom Ranch. We drove to South Kaibab Trailhead when it was still drivable, and we started down. And I was carrying my oldest in a homemade backpack. And we got about halfway down, and we had these, back in the day, it was heavy boots. I was worried about my husband because he wasn't as fit as me. And we had these, there was nothing available like trail runners. You either wore gym shoes with Velcro or you got those stupid boots. So we got the stupid boots, and we got down to about Skeleton Point, and my ex-husband took his boots off and his toes were just bloody. And he said, and he was carrying a big backpack, and there were canned goods in it. There was sterno stove. I mean, I don't know how much the thing weighed, but that was back in the 70s, and we didn't know what we were doing. So he said, I don't think I can do this. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I will go back up to the car. I'll take your boots and I'll get your bedroom slippers. He said, okay. So he sat there and waited.
And you're at Skeleton Point at this point, which is already 3 miles down South Kaibab.
Yeah, we're good. We're a good halfway down.
Oh my gosh. And you decided you were going to go back.
And I was fit, young. I was like 26.
Oh my gosh.
So I took Pam, I took the backpack off that she was in, and they just hung out there while I made a beeline back to the car. I threw his old boots in the trunk, and I got his corduroy bedroom slippers, the slip-on kind that are brown corduroy. I remember to this day just grabbing them things and they, little thin soles and just booking it back down. And he was waiting there, and I said, well, try these. We didn't have any Band-Aids or anything. We were just completely newbies. We got to Phantom Ranch and checked in and got to our cabin and took our sterno stove out and opened up some, I don't know what we had. Chunky soup, probably. Anyway, we spent a whole day down there, and he could hardly walk because his toes were just wrecked.
But he did make it down in the slippers the whole way down?
He did make it down in the slippers. He wore slippers the entire time. And, I'm really happy that happened. Otherwise, we would have missed that whole experience. So after that, the third day, we hiked up, and we were sore. We were in shape to do that kind of stuff. So, that was my very first introduction to the Grand Canyon. It was amazing. And something told me inside of myself that I would definitely be back.
But before that could happen, life would get in the way. 2 more kids, job transfers that took Mary's young family from Colorado to Tucson to Minnesota, and finally back to Tucson again, and ultimately, an ugly divorce that would help shape the next chapter in her life.
When I turned 40, we divorced, and the drive to stay fit was really strong because I knew I had to rely on myself to work. And work I did 80 hours a week for 3 years while getting on my feet after a terrible divorce. And I don't mean to whine and complain, but I've had 20 eye surgeries because I've had trauma, 2 neurosurgeries from broken neck from neck trauma. So you have to decide if you're going to be a victim or not be a victim. And it doesn't just like one day you don't wake up and say, "Oh, I'm not a victim anymore." You go through periods where you feel so frustrated because of what you have to go through. But little by little, you look back in your rearview mirror and see that if it wasn't for that, you would never be the person you are today. The foundation that I've built on is really, really strong with the understanding of what it took to be where I'm at now. And you can't do that without suffering. There's just no way to grow in life without suffering.
I'm sorry for everything you went through. Does it feel like even today that the canyon and all the hikes that you do in the canyon is that therapeutic to you?
Oh, big time. Yeah. In the 90s, when I was single, I was asked by a group of nurses and professional people to be their trail guide going down to Phantom Ranch. And at that point in time in 1993 or whatever, I had probably done it 12 times. And so I said, sure. And I was super duper fit trail running. And so I took these guys down to Phantom Ranch, and they were so slow that I remember leaving them just below the tip off and then running to Ribbon Falls and back again in time for dinner. These guys,
Oh my gosh.
they were like doing a half mile an hour. And I said, okay. So they paid all my expenses. So we stayed down there for 2 nights. And then coming up Bright Angel, I went off onto, the plateau point while they were just sitting there eating lunch and came back up. But that was my first experiencing in assisting a very badly in trouble trail runner. That was probably 30 years ago. This guy had no food, and he was a skinny little guy in his 50s with those little short running shorts on and no shirt. And he was hypoglycemic. He didn't have any food. And he kept going along the trail and sitting down, and he was almost like ready to pass out. Finally, I stopped and I said, look, I know what's wrong with you. You need to have some nutrition or else you're not going to be able to make it out of the canyon. He wasn't even to 3 Mile House yet. So that was my first experience in seeing somebody in trouble and evaluating what was wrong with them. And that was really eye-opening, because then I started looking for it all the time after that trip.
As the years after her divorce went by, Mary's frequent canyon trips all but stopped as 80-hour work weeks and her own cleaning company demanded her attention. Encouraged by her son, Art, she stayed fit by taking up rock climbing closer to home. But then one day, perhaps sensing his mom's longing for the Grand Canyon, Art picked up the phone.
My son called me one day when I was 61. So it would have been in 2011 or 12 or 10 or 11, depending on the time of the year. Mom, I haven't seen you talk about the Colorado in a long time, or the Grand Canyon. And I said, well, I'm busy climbing. And he says, well, how many trips do you have? And I said, 48. And he said, why don't you get it up to your age? And I said, you're crazy. That's way too much to catch up. And he goes, no, I really think you should have a go at it. And I said, why don't you? You're 32, you little brat. He said, no, I don't live there. You do. And so I hung up the phone and I sat there in my chair just like this. And I thought, why not? I called him back 5 minutes later and I said, okay, buddy, you're on.
6 front pockets and pouches, an insulated hydration compartment, and now many successful rim-to-rims completed to rave reviews. Our 22-liter rim-to-rim pack is the day pack designed with the rim-to-rim hiker in mind. Check it out today and find out why it's been called Backpack Perfection. The unisex one-size-fits-most rim-to-rim pack is available exclusively at brightangeloutfitters.com and is part of our mission to help you hike your best hike.
Challenge accepted. So because of that one phone call, and by the way, he's the one that got me to rock climb too, because I would never even consider putting on a harness if it wasn't for my son. But But I remember, every single trip after that, I'd call him. Well, I'm up to 49. I'm up to 50. And then I brought a German PhD student from the university, Robert, and I said, I want to go faster. So he went 3 times with me and pushed me really hard to up my speed. And because of Robert, I had my fastest down and out time at age 62, which was to the Black Bridge and back again in 4 hours and 57 minutes round trip.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
That was before my vision went bonkers, and my vertigo kicked in. I could never ever do that now, but I had enough visual awareness that I could actually run down the trail in an hour and 35 minutes, but now it takes me 2 hours and 45 minutes, 3 hours, whatever it takes. So there's been a lot of seeds planted by great people. So when I got to the one day I made the speed record, I called Art and I said, I just finished, and I was bawling, crying, happy. I thought I could do this again. And he said to me, why don't you do this again? And I said, well, if you came, I would, but I don't feel safe doing it again. And what I should have done is go rim to rim to rim, like I was perfectly capable of doing. Didn't even think about it back in the day. Didn't even think about it. So anyway, I got to 62 times at age 62. Then it became, an ongoing thing where I just kept planning and scheming and, driving up there, sleeping in my truck, and refined my time as far as how to pack even more. Every time I went, I refined how to do it, what I was taking, how to pack. When I got to about 75, that's when I realized that I could get to 100. And that sent me on a mission to go as many times as possible. And one weekend I did it on a Friday, and then I went to Las Vegas to climb with a friend, and then I came back and did it again on a Sunday or a Monday. There was 2 days in between. And and then I had 3 guy climbing friends that asked to join me on my 100th trip. And if you go way back in my Facebook page, you can go back to 2017 in December and find me coming out of the canyon with Adam Block holding my arm up, and Jonathan is like, hey, Mary, you got to 100. And that was 10 days after a massive orbital eye surgery in Boston, Massachusetts. And you can still see my black eye. It was terrible.
What are the typical hikes that you're doing when you're doing this? I mean, anything below the rim obviously counts, but what are your main routes?
Everyone but 5, probably 5 at the most, has been either to the bottom and back, including when I do Tonto. Sometimes I'll go to the bottom, come back up, like I'll go South Kaibab River and then back up to the tip off and then over to Bright Angel and up just because.
Hardcore.
And then many, many rim to rims, which I love, love, love.
But they haven't all been uneventful. Just 3 years ago, Mary and 2 friends were attempting a 1-day rim to rim to rim, a double crossing of 42 plus miles and 21,000 feet of elevation change that would take them from South Kaibab to North Kaibab and then back. It was only halfway through that Mary was dealt a reminder that even if you're a seasoned canyon hiker, the grueling physical challenge of such a hike can expose or amplify underlying physical conditions that you might not even know you have.
When I got to the North Rim, I knew something was off. I didn't feel good. And I didn't feel good that morning either. And I just figured I had a stomach bug or whatever. And, I went to the bathroom once and then I couldn't go anymore. And what was happening is my gut was closing off. So by the time we got to the North Rim, I knew I was in trouble. And I kept saying, come on, guys, let's go, let's go, let's go. I need to get out of here. And it wasn't open then. It was like May 1st. So there was nobody to rescue us. Like, we got to go, we got to go. So I wasn't able to digest any food because it was obstructed. And I just couldn't get any nutrition from what. So you get weaker and weaker and weaker. And in the box, I said to the kids, the young people, I said, I don't think I can make it, you guys. I'm just going to have to lay down here. So the young man ran to Phantom Ranch to get help. And I laid down on a piece of plastic, next to the roaring river for about 2.5 hours while he was gone. And the girl stayed with me. And in the process of laying flat and deep breathing, by the time the Ranger Ed got back, remember Ranger Ed, big heavyset guy with teardrop glasses like the Ranger of Boone County. He came back and said, "Ma'am, can you walk?" And I says, "I'm so weak, I can't even crawl." So I stood up and I was able to take some nutrition, and bingo, immediately the obstruction opened enough that I could actually get some nutrition. But other than that, I don't think I would have made it out of there. I could have died. So I staggered back to Phantom Ranch, and those guys slept outside in borrowed sleeping bags. And the next morning, he checked my pack. He checked everything. He said she's calling me and she's doing everything right. She's completely hydrated, and bowel obstruction is a life-threatening situation where if you don't get to it, you'll become necrotic and it can kill you in 16 hours. So, but it had just cleared enough that I could get some nutrition. So he said, "Do you think you can walk out?" And I said, "If I had a day here to recover, I probably could." And he just said, "Oh, we'll just call the chopper." I said, "Okay." So my friends proceeded to walk out, and I choppered up, and the Ranger was waiting for me there, and he took me to Bright Angel, and it was Ranger Greg, who I've seen many times. He knew exactly who I was. And so my friends came out, and we, all drove home. And I remember laying in the back seat flat, just trying to, keep it open. But it didn't bother me again until it almost killed me. And, that's one situation that if I came across someone in the canyon that was vomiting uncontrollably and they couldn't take food, I would get them out of there as fast as possible. So that actually happened to me in the Grand Canyon. So a couple weeks later, I went down South Kaibab up Bright Angel, and there was Greg standing there at 3 Mile House, and there was 4 Rangers, and they were like looking at me, and I think he said, "That's her, that's a lady." So when I went to the bathroom and came out, one of the Rangers was a woman, and she goes, "Oh, looks like you're doing better." And I didn't know her, but she knew about me. It was horrifying. It's like, what the heck are you doing back here? What's wrong with you, woman?
Even after all that, it still took doctors 3 years to properly diagnose Mary's bowel issue, which was surgically repaired 3 years ago. Meanwhile, her canyon pace has increased. She's up to 175 times down and through, so many that she's even established a routine, which starts with sleeping in her truck outside the park the night before.
I have my sleeping bag, my food, my cooler, every single thing. My pack is packed. I am dressed fully for what I'm going to be wearing the next day. And I crawl into bed. I don't get up there sometimes till 9 or 10. And I'll crawl into bed, and then I'll have my alarm for 4 o'clock in the morning, get up, brush my teeth, jump in the truck, turn the heater on, and drive straight into the rim, and hopefully start down by 5 or 6. And then get out of the canyon, get in the car, and drive back to Tucson immediately, which is awful. So awful.
What's your favorite hike in the canyon?
South Kaibab, North Kaibab, either direction, up, down, doesn't matter. Every single time I get to the trailhead, I look down and think, I can't believe I'm here again. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to be here again. And it never fails. And when I'm coming out, before the rim, I become emotional all over again. It's like, well, I'm getting to those final 8 switchbacks. I can't believe I've been here again. There's just, I don't know, there's something about the place that is so freaking magical. And especially when you get past Phantom Ranch and you're on the way to the North Rim, multiply that by 10 times. The fact that you're getting away from the busy crowds and you're into your, it's almost like uncharted territory, my space.
Uncharted, maybe, but undocumented? Not if she can help it. Mary has been working on a book about her canyon adventures that she intends to finish soon, and that she hopes will help folks have a safe hike. Its title? Grand Canyon, Stupid/Smart, Your choice. Why that title?
Because you have a conscious responsibility and a conscious ability to do your research and know what you're getting into, aside from the stupid ass internet where people think all you need is a pair of shoes and a pack and you can do it. It is beyond difficult. People don't understand the scope of the different altitude, weather changes, conditions, shade, sun, as we talked about yesterday, hydration, dehydration, overwater, hyponatremia, hypoglycemia, just refusing, like I'm nauseous, so I can't eat. And they don't want to listen. They would rather listen to what they want to hear rather than what they need to hear. And there's a lot of arrogant people that get into trouble. And, what can I say?
What do you think the number one mistake that a newbie could make when they're going through a Grand Canyon hike?
One word: underestimation. 2, lack of experience. 3, poor planning. 4, biting off more than you can chew. And just the fact that it's reverse, down and then up. Most people have no knowledge of that whatsoever. I would say that's, right near the top 2 is descending and then ascending. It's shocking.
So what's the best way for someone to prepare then? Because people are still going to do it. People who have never done it make up a very high number of the hikes in the Grand Canyon every year, especially a rim to rim, since that seems to be the number one bucket list hike in the canyon now.
I mean, we can talk till we're blue in the face about how they should do, 10,000 vertical feet every single weekend for 6 weekends before you go.
Thanks for making the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show the number one Grand Canyon-related podcast in the world. We'll be back in January with a new season of tips, tricks, and most importantly, your stories about what it takes to have a successful hike in one of the most spectacular places in the world. In the meantime, the conversation never stops in our Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Facebook group, a vibrant community of canyon crazies out to help you have your best possible experience in the canyon. It's the only place you'll have daily access to Brian and just about every guest you've ever heard on the show, and they're all here to help. It's totally free, so join today and enter the world of the Canyon Obsessed.
And carry, at least, 10 pounds. But how to get people to do that? I don't know. When I'm in the canyon and I come across situations, because I'm constantly looking I see them from afar and I evaluate what they're wearing, what time of the year it is, what kind of sun exposure they have, if they have a backpack or even not, they have a water bottle in their hand, and what they're wearing on their feet. And I do a quick size up of where they're at as far as if they know what they're doing or not. You can evaluate, and I'm sure you've seen this too. And if they're overpacked, underpacked, lopsided packed, and as I'm going by these guys, where are you going? Say we're at 3 Mile House and I'm on way up. Oh, I don't know. My kids are ahead of me and I just follow them and where they decide to turn around, 10-year-old kids, then I guess I'll turn around. And I said, that's a pretty bad idea. Knowing full well that she's just laughing at me and she's not going to listen to a word I say. And the generation that we have because of quick internet, quick this, quick that, quick this, quick that, I would say an entire generation doesn't realize how much work it actually takes to be successful at anything, much less hiking the Grand Canyon in a good way, to not put others at risk for, rescuing you for something that you could have avoided. Like you said, there's always factors that you and me can run into, which I did, that were unavoidable. And most of the time, I would say 98% of the time they're avoidable. And how to get people to actually take it serious and do the actual work, I don't know. I've been working on that for 30 years, that I go in the canyon.
Mary's frustration of running across unprepared hikers is shared by many in the Park Service, especially those tasked with rescuing them, including Mary's friend, Ranger Kate.
She said, oh, We are so tired, up to here, to getting distress calls from things that could be avoided. And, she was the one encouraging me, get that book done. We're tired of it. We don't have staff. And she told me one time that my picture was on the refrigerator at Phantom Ranch. I don't know if that's true or not. But, every time I'd see her, I would have run into somebody that was in dire straits, including, one November day, I was coming up South Kaibab. There was a big storm due to come in at 5:00, and I was planning on being at my car by 4. Freezing rain, everything was hitting. So I'm coming up into the tip-off, and I hear clang, 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 and I look up to see 2 guys in street clothes, Dockers pants, regular shoes, and their belts, shirts, like dress shirts, long sleeve dress shirts with nothing else except for one water bottle each in their hands, and they're just going down as fast as they can go. And I said, "Where in the world are you guys going? It's going to storm. Are you prepared to get out of here?" "Oh, don't worry about us. We'll be fine." So later on, when I got to Skeleton Point, Kate was watching me come up the wickets. "Mary, I see you." So we chatted, and I said, "Okay, when you get to Phantom Ranch, you're going to find 2 guys sitting on the floor or on chairs with their knees up and their heads down like this, saying, 'What are we going to do? Because we don't have any clothes. It's starting to rain, and it's going to be, and it dropped to like 30 degrees. By the time I got to my car, it was so cold I could barely get the key in the door. That's how cold it was." And later on, next time I saw her, she goes, "Yeah, that's exactly how we found him." "Well, what did you do?" She goes, "We made him buy headlamps. We made him buy food. And I'm not sure if there was any jackets or anything available. And then we sent them on their way." And they were young and strong enough to do it.
That's what people don't understand, is that if unless you're in a life-threatening situation, you're hiking out of there. They're not just going to send a helicopter for you just for just because
No.
you don't feel good.
Exactly.
This is a quote that I saw from you somewhere, Mary, that said, "It's impossible to explain how many lives are lived on a hike like this." And you said that after a rim to rim. And I'm just curious, even though it is, you say, impossible to explain, do your best. Tell us what that means.
At Skeleton Point, Ranger Craig was there, and there was 2 young guys that were on the way to the river. It was November, and the one guy didn't give a rip, and the other one was like from LA, and he was extremely driven to make it to the bottom. And the ranger kept saying, "I don't recommend it." They can't say don't do it. They just said, "Well, I wouldn't recommend that." And the guy's name was KK. I still have his contact information. And he looks at me and he goes, "I really want to go." "Well, what do you have?" "I've got a jacket. I've got a whole bunch of trail mix, and I've got water." So he decided that his guy friend decided, "No, I'm just going to turn around and go back up." But this young guy had such a fire in his eyes that I didn't discourage him. I said, "I think you're going to make it." And he had a flashlight, which, in November it gets dark really early. So anyway, that was the end of that. And so the next week, and if I can ever find it on my phone, I'll have to read you what he wrote me about that. He said, "I lived 1,000 lives coming out that hike." He said, "I experienced everything from elation to fear. When I got to the bottom, I turned around and started running back up the trail, realizing that I can't run up the trail. And I realized that I had to just, prevent myself from having a heart." He was like 29 years old, not have a heart attack. And all I could think of was, she did it. She did it. This lady did it. And she told me I could do it. And she told the whole entire hike. And he said when he got close to the top, he started going through family issues from his past, and parents and brothers and siblings and people that had been mean to him over the years. And he just went through 1,000 different situations and just started to cry and weep and realize his part in him and forgiving those people. It was like his whole life flashed before him on the last, mile coming up South Kaibab Trail. And he said, and then I got scared because the wind was whipping up the canyon and my flashlight started going on and off, and I didn't know if I'd be able to see, and the fear, and I dealt with that. This guy's life was changed forever because he got pushed so far beyond what he thought he could do, and he dealt with issues in his life doing really hard things. And it's just, that's where you live a million. You can't even describe how many lifetimes you live. You go back over things that have happened to you or that you've even done to somebody else. And things become into perspective because you're in such a huge place. And you realize that God owns it all and he forgives. And it's okay to face on those icky things in our life.
What is it that keeps you coming back for more? Time and time again, 175 times now as you close in on 200. What keeps you coming back for more, Mary?
The satisfaction of a job well done. Every hike is new. Every hike is learning. It's kind of like when I climb. Every climb, even if it's the same climb, every time I climb that climb, it's new. And I believe with all my heart that God made us to be physically challenged. And unfortunately, we have to do that on purpose nowadays because we're not physically challenged. And if you're not physically challenged, then I don't think that your purpose in life can be totally fulfilled.
That is Mary Banik. Okay, one other announcement as we continue our mission to provide you with as many resources as we can to help you have your best experience below the rim. The Grand Canyon Shade Tracker is live, and it is absolutely free. I cannot even express to you how pumped I am about this. Folks, this thing is like magic. You can go to gcshadetracker.com and see exactly when and where you will have shade anywhere in the canyon, down to the minute, for every day of the year. All right, that means that say you're doing a rim to rim from North Kaibab to Bright Angel on, May 26th. You just enter the route and the dates into the tracker, and you then use a slider to see where the shade will be and at what time. So say the forecast is for high temperatures that day and you want to avoid the direct sun as much as you can and make sure you're not going up Bright Angel until there's shade. Now you can see down to the minute when and where that shade will take hold on every section of the trail. The Grand Canyon Shade Tracker is totally free, courtesy of Bright Angel Outfitters, and you can try it out for yourself at brightangeloutfitters.com or gcshadetracker.com. It was inspired by the second half of a rim to rim to rim that I did last year, where I would have done anything to know where there would be shade from, like Cottonwood and all the way through the box when I was going north to south, because the sun just took so much out of me on the first crossing. I was desperate for shade. Now I can plan my hikes to optimize shade and avoid direct sun exposure, which to me is the key to a successful hike in the warmer months. Again, that's at gcshadetracker.com. We hope you'll love it and that it makes your canyon adventure that much better. No matter the trail, no matter the route, no matter the day, all courtesy of Bright Angel Outfitters. All right, my name is Brian Special, encouraging you as always to go hike the canyon. Take that first step, embrace the journey, and when you get there, whether you're shooting for time goals or taking your time, just hike your own hike. Enjoy the canyon and know that we are here to help. We'll see you next time on the Grand Canyon Hiker Dude Show, presented by Bright Angel Outfitters.